Hi, y'all. My name is Sharice Bennett. I go by Red. I answered your both. I am excited to continue this MSW journey with all of you. To answer the prompt, my experience with dealing with persons diagnosed with mental disorders include one of my favorite jobs. I was a psychiatric technician at the Psychiatric Institute of Washington in D.C. when I lived in Maryland many moons ago. I was not in charge of intake or any diagnosis of any kind. I was charged with the responsibility of keeping the residents engaged, helping with intake, making sure they receive their medications on time, safety checks, excuse me, um, things like that. Excuse me. And I would just spend a day talking, sitting and talking with them just to making sure that they're engaged and not bored and not, flaring up. So we were responsible for managing persons with diagnosis of um, drug addiction, schizophrenia, dementia, bipolar disorder, things like that. I used to joke and say that if you drop the DSM 4 at the time, or 3 at the time, that whatever page it landed on, you could probably find it somewhere in the institute. And so that it was enriching because I was a psychology major right out of undergrad when I had that job. The challenges that I have witnessed or are aware of include the very thing that the professor described in her intro video. Providers rush to make a diagnosis based off of one singular event or a very short span of time in the person's life and history. And they don't take into account their background, the familiar stressors or factors, um, things like that, which was very rampant. The diagnoses of like ADD, ADHD, operational defiance, explosive intermittent disorder, in the communities of color that I either grew up in or navigated, because the population was primarily Black, while the teachers, the referring physicians or referring adults or providers were not. And so there was a large cultural disconnect there. So that is my experience. Again, I look forward to like doing the work with you all. Yeah, have a good evening.